If I had known what was going to happen, I would rather burn all my savings and sleep in the park than sign that rental contract. But back then, for a broke 4-year-old freelance graphic designer like me, the house number 42 at the end of this suburban dirt road was truly an offer I couldn't refuse. The rent was only $500 a month for 2 floors and a spacious basement. The broker said the previous owner had hurriedly moved abroad and wanted to rent it out urgently. I signed the contract immediately, without asking why there were faint scratches on the living room wall that had been hastily painted over. It started on the 3rd day after I moved in, precisely on October 15th. That day, I was clearing a pile of cardboard boxes down to the basement to make space for work. The basement of this house had a very strange smell, a mixture of damp earth, rusting metal, and something pungent like wilted chrysanthemums. The air down here was thick, feeling significantly heavier than the floor above, as if the air pressure changed suddenly when you stepped off the last step. In the darkest corner of the room, hidden behind a stack of old newspapers from the 90 seconds, I found it. It was an old CRT TV, a Sony Trinitron, the kind with a thick, heavy convex screen that my parents used when I was a kid. The dark gray plastic casing was covered in a layer of dust, so thick I could write my name on it. The strange thing was that the TV was placed facing into the corner of the wall, as if someone had intentionally punished it to face the wall. "What the hell is this?" I muttered, my voice echoing loosely in the narrow space. Out of curiosity, I decided to turn it around. It was incredibly heavy, must have been over 30 kilos. When I managed to turn the screen outward, the pitch black glass reflected my sweaty face under the yellow basement light. I used my shirt hem to wipe the dust off the screen. It was still intact, not a single scratch. There was a pitch black power cord coiled under the base, the plug head covered in cobwebs. I should have left it there. I should have treated it as trash. But that damn curiosity of the creative profession made me act stupidly. I saw a power outlet on the wall right nearby. "Let's see if you still run," I whispered. I plugged it into the socket. A small click sounded, but the screen remained black. I pressed the hard power button on the front. Nothing happened. No indicator light. No characteristic startup sound of this TV series. Junk. I clicked my tongue, dusted off my hands, and stood up. I intended to unplug it, but the phone in my pocket vibrated, notifying a new work email. I hurriedly ran upstairs, leaving the TV still plugged in, lying forlornly in the cold basement. It was 4 p.m. I didn't know at all that very act of forgetting the plug had opened the door to hell for myself. I worked in the living room until late at night. Everything was normal, until the clock struck 2:13 a.m. The whole house was sinking in absolute silence. The kind of thick silence only found in desolate suburbs at midnight. I was glued to the laptop screen, adjusting color layers for a client, when suddenly, an ear-piercing sound tore through the atmosphere. Ree! It rang out from under the floor, so loud I felt like the wooden floor beneath my feet was vibrating violently. My heart jumped to my throat. My hand knocked the half-finished coffee cup off the table. Black water spread all over the papers. What the hell? I glanced at the clock on the screen corner. 2:13 a.m. The noise didn't stop. It was the characteristic static noise of old TVs when losing signal, but amplified to maximum volume. It sounded like thousands of electronic insects screaming at once. I grabbed the phone, turned on the flashlight, and tiptoed towards the basement door. The closer I got, the more ear-splitting the sound became. An acrid burning smell assaulted my nose, right as I opened the wooden door leading down. The smell of old burnt dust and strong ozone, like the air after a thunderstorm, but much harsher. "Who's down there?" I shouted, trying to sound tough, but my voice wavered due to the noise. No answer, only the steady, emotionless ree sound. I stepped down each wooden step. The air grew colder with each step. Cold in an unreasonable way. Upstairs, I had the temperature at 24 degrees C, but down here, it felt like stepping into a freezer, probably only about 15 degrees. Under the flickering blue-white light cast from the corner of the room, I saw it, the old Sony Trinitron. It was working. Its convex screen shone brilliantly in the dark, displaying millions of black and white static grains dancing madly. There was no image at all, just snow and that ear-piercing screeching sound. I covered my ears tight, ran hurriedly to the TV. I pressed my thumb hard on the hard power button. Click. The button depressed, but the TV still screamed. The screen remained bright. "This damn piece of junk!" I bent down, reached behind the pile of dusty cables at the back of the TV, finding the power cord. My hand touched its burning hot plastic casing. I yanked the plug out of the socket. Foot. The sound cut off immediately. The screen shrank to a small dot of light in the center, then went completely black. Silence returned, 1,000 times heavier than before. My panting echoed in the damp basement. I stood there, hands still clutching the power cord, heart pounding in my chest. I shined the flashlight on the socket. There were black scorch marks around the plug holes. Short circuit, I reassured myself, trying to swallow the lump in my throat. The internal capacitor probably failed, so it activated itself. Antique junk. I coiled the power cord, threw it far away from the socket to ensure no more electrical shorts. Before turning back to go upstairs, I felt a prickling sensation as if someone was staring at the back of my neck. I spun around, shining the flashlight in a sweep around the basement. Only cardboard boxes and the pitch-black TV screen, reflecting my panicked face on the dark glass. I ran quickly upstairs, locking the basement door tight. That night, I had to turn on the nightlight to dare close my eyes, even though I told myself it was just a silly technical glitch. The next 3 days passed in a false peace. I tried to forget the incident of that night, convincing myself that it was just a random electronic glitch. I even went down to the basement during the day to get more boxes, glancing at the pitch-black TV lying silent in the corner like a dead animal, and feeling ridiculous about my own cowardice. But that peace shattered on the evening of October 18th. It was about 8:45 p.m. I had just finished cooking a simple dinner with spaghetti, and was standing washing the pan in the sink. The sound of trickling water and distant traffic from the highway created a pleasant background noise. As I turned off the tap and wiped my hands on a towel, the corner of my eye caught something wrong. The hallway leading to the basement door was pitch black, but from the gap under the wooden door leading down, a pale, ghostly blue light was casting up, dancing flickeringly on the wooden floor. My stomach tightened. There was no ear-piercing static sound like last time, just light. "Impossible," I whispered, throwing the towel on the table. I already unplugged it. I walked quickly to the basement door, yanked the door handle. The door opened, and the blue light from below cast up onto my face, cold and soulless. The TV was on. I rushed down the stairs, this time no longer tiptoeing, but with annoyance mixed with fear. I wanted to know what the hell was going on with the electrical system of this house. When I stood before the Sony Trinitron, my anger halted. The screen was no longer static. It was displaying a clear image, though the colors were pale and greenish, characteristic of old camera lenses. It was a room. The floor was tiled in, alternating black and white. A row of old oak kitchen cabinets. A small round dining table with 2 mismatched wooden chairs. It took about 5 seconds for my brain to process what it was seeing. That was my kitchen. The kitchen right above my head right now. What? I stepped back, eyes glued to the screen. The camera angle was placed from high up, seemingly from the ceiling corner opposite the sink. It covered the entire kitchen area and part of the passageway to the living room. The image was still soundless. I looked down at the power outlet. The plug was resting neatly in the socket. A cold chill ran down my spine. I remembered very clearly unplugging it and throwing the cord aside the other night. I was 100% sure, but the reality before my eyes made me doubt my own memory. Could I have absent-mindedly plugged it back in while cleaning this morning? Or did the landlord sneak in? Thinking about the landlord made me shudder, but also offered a more rational explanation than ghosts. Security camera? I muttered, the feeling of privacy invasion flaring up to replace the fear. That damn landlord installed a surveillance camera and connected it to this screen. I stared at the TV screen. In the image, the kitchen was empty. On the kitchen table, the bowl of spaghetti I had just put down remained. Steam from the noodle bowl was still rising faintly on the low-resolution screen. It was a live feed. I gritted my teeth, turned, and ran back up the stairs. I would find that damn camera, smash it, and then call and curse out the broker. I did not accept being watched in my own home. I stormed into the kitchen, eyes darting around the ceiling, searching for a red dot or a pitch-black lens. But I didn't know that the moment I stepped into the kitchen was also when the real nightmare began. Anger blurred my vision. I ransacked the whole kitchen. I pulled a stool over to climb up and check every corner of the ceiling, overturned spice jars on the shelf, even shining the flashlight into the gaps of the range hood. Nothing at all. No blinking red dot, no lens, no strange wires. Only cobwebs and long accumulated dust. It must be here somewhere, I hissed, sweat starting to bead on my forehead. To determine the camera location, I needed to see the image on the TV screen to align the angle. I went out to the hallway, stood right at the top of the stairs leading to the basement. From this position, through the wide open door frame, I could see the Sony Trinitron screen glowing down there. Although small and slightly distorted due to the high angle, it was still enough to see everything clearly. On the screen, a figure was standing at the kitchen door, looking up. It was me. I raised my right hand. The shadow on the TV raised its right hand. I waved my hand vigorously. The shadow waved back frantically. What made my stomach knot was not seeing myself on TV, but the latency. If this were a standard Wi-Fi camera or IP camera, there would certainly be a delay of 1 to 2 seconds, or even a few seconds if the connection was poor. But the image on that old CRT TV responded immediately. It was more like looking in a mirror than digital image transmission. I decided to try one more time to pinpoint the exact camera location. I stepped backward into the kitchen, eyes still trying to glance down at the TV screen in the basement. I walked in front of the fridge. On the screen, I saw my back facing the lens. This angle. It was located high up, right in the wall corner above the sink, projecting diagonally down to the fridge area. I opened the fridge door. Yellow light from the fridge spilled out, illuminating my face. On the TV screen in the basement, the image also brightened simultaneously. I stared at myself on the pixelated screen. The angle was perfect, completely covering my actions. I slammed the fridge door shut and spun around to look at the wall corner above the sink. Empty. Completely empty. The wall was flat, the yellowed paint stained and patchy. Not a single drill hole. Not a single tiny device. Not even a fly landed there. I stood rooted to the spot, the cold from the fridge still lingering on my skin, but inside I was shivering. I was staring into the void, where logically there should be a lens pointing at me. If there is no camera, then what is recording me? And worse, where does the TV get the signal from? Just then, I heard a small sound echoing up from the basement. Not static, but a click, like someone just changed the channel using the physical button on the TV. I looked down. The image on the screen had changed. That dry click sounded like a hammer striking directly onto my nerves, which were taut as guitar strings. I rushed down the last few steps, out of breath, eyes glued to the dimly glowing screen. The kitchen image had vanished. Replacing it was another familiar scene, but its presence on this TV made the blood in my body freeze. It was my bedroom on the second floor. I clearly saw the unmade bed with the rumpled blue blanket. I saw the desk cluttered with papers and the swivel chair turned away. But what made me nauseous was the camera angle. It was filmed from high above, right up in the ceiling corner where the two walls met above the window. A panoramic, comprehensive view, like the view of a spider clinging to the ceiling. You must be kidding me. I turned and ran for my life up to the second floor. My lungs burned, every breath rasping in my throat. I burst into the bedroom, flipped the light switch wide open. The room brightened, silent and normal to a terrifying degree. I dashed to the corner of the room above the window, the position corresponding to the lens I just saw on the screen. I dragged the swivel chair over, climbed up, and used my phone flashlight to shine directly into that wall corner. Nothing. Not only was there no camera, but there was even a thick spider web still intact there, with a daddy long-legged spider lying motionless in the middle. The layer of dust on the web was so thick that just a light breath made it tremble. If anyone had installed a device here, even the world's smallest camera, they would have had to sweep this spiderweb away. The spider's existence was the strongest proof. No one had touched this corner for months, maybe even years, but the image down there was real. I just saw it. To make sure I wasn't crazy, I grabbed a red hoodie and threw it onto the bed. I wanted to create a change in the scene. Then, I ran like the wind down to the basement. On the Sony Trinitron screen, the red hoodie sat imposingly on the bed. I collapsed onto the cold concrete floor, both hands clutching my head. My logic collapsed completely. No recording device, but the image was still being transmitted. And it was transmitting live. This house. It didn't need a camera to see me. It saw me itself. Suddenly, I felt the concrete ceiling above my head pressing down heavily. The feeling of being watched, scope phobia, exploded violently. Even though I was in a sealed basement with no windows, I still felt like thousands of invisible eyes were glued to my neck, my back, to my every movement from the darkest corners of the room. I shot up, a crazy but decisive thought popping into my head. If I couldn't find that eye, I would blind it. That thought flared up like a fuse. If I couldn't find the camera, I would blindfold it, or I would smash that damn screen. I rushed to the tool shelf in the basement corner, grabbed a roll of black tape and a wooden-handled claw hammer. I ran back up to the bedroom where it was watching me. I tore off long strips of tape, pasting them crisscross over the spider-webbed wall corner, pasting over small cracks in the ceiling, pasting over any place capable of hiding a pinhole. Done. I exhaled sharply, sweat soaking the back of my shirt. I ran down to the basement to check the results. The scene on the screen made me want to vomit. The bedroom image was still there, but the angle had changed. No longer from the ceiling, but now it was filming from under the bed, projecting out. On the screen, I saw my own bare feet standing trembling by the edge of the bed. It was toying with me. It could see from anywhere. "You want to look? I'll make you blind." Madness overtook fear. I gripped the hammer handle tight, swung it high above my head, and struck a full-force blowdown onto the convex glass face of the Sony Trinitron. Crash! The sound of shattering glass rang out ear-piercingly, sharp. Thick glass shards flew scattered all over the concrete floor. The screen had a large hole in the middle, revealing pitch-black electronic components inside. Acrid smoke rose up. I panted heavily, chest heaving violently, the hand holding the hammer still trembling from the recoil. "Done," I hissed through my teeth. No more looking. But then, the blue light flickered again. I stared wide-eyed at the wreckage. On the jagged glass shards still sticking to the TV frame, and even on the fragments scattered on the floor, the image was still there. It was like a broken mirror, reflecting hundreds of different viewing angles. Each shard displayed a part of the bedroom, distorted, broken, but still moving. And most terrible of all, the TV speaker was crushed by the hammer, but it was not silent. The static crackle was gone. Instead, there was a wet sound, heavy, emanating from deep inside the broken components. H, 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 H. It sounded like the breathing of an asthmatic, or the lungs of someone drowning. It emitted rhythmically, synchronizing with the frantic beating of my heart. I backed away, heels stepping on a shard of glass, creating a dry crunch. On the shattered glass fragments, the camera angle began to move. I stood frozen in the middle of the basement, surrounded by the acrid smell of burning electronic components, and the bone-chilling cold rising from the concrete floor. My eyes couldn't leave the shattered glass shards scattered at my feet. On each of those sharp fragments, the image changed once again. No longer the silent space under the bed. This time, the camera angle was moving. It wasn't like the smooth sliding motion of a dolly or Steadicam in movies. It was jerky, swaying with the rhythm of footsteps, leaning slightly forward. It was a first-person perspective, point of view. The view of something walking inside my house. On the largest shards, I recognized the living room scene on the ground floor, right above my head right now. That view was gliding past the sofa set, heading towards the foot of the stairs leading to the second floor. And then, I heard it. Creak. A real physical sound rang out from the ceiling above my head. It was the sound of the floorboard in the living room walkway being weighed down. I held my breath, eyes darting continuously from the ceiling down to the pile of broken glass. On the shattered screen, that thing began to set foot on the first step of the stairs. Thud. A real footstep sound rang out on the stairs outside, penetrating the wooden door of the basement. My mind reeled. The synchronization between the images on the shards and the actual sound was absolute. When the view on the glass shook, once corresponding to a footstep, my ears also heard the sound of wood grinding and creaking outside. It had weight. It was present. That view continued to climb. Passing the landscape painting, I hung on the landing. I saw that painting glide past on the broken glass shard, blurry and distorted. Creak. 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 The slow, heavy footsteps, like a large man trying to walk very softly, echoing through the quiet house. It was going up to the second floor. It was heading towards my bedroom. My stomach knotted when I realized a horrifying truth. It was looking for me. The last time it saw me was in the bedroom, when I climbed the chair to tape the wall. It thought I was still there. The wheezing breath coming from the broken TV speaker at my feet suddenly became more urgent, more excited. On the glass shards, I saw the view had reached the second floor hallway. It stopped in front of my bedroom door, the door I had hurriedly closed when running down here to get the hammer. Its invisible hand reached out on the screen. At the same time, though, in the basement, I could imagine vividly the sound of the bedroom doorknob upstairs turning gently. What do? I'm trapped in the basement. The only exit is the stairs leading straight up to the area I just passed. If I run up now, I will make noise. But if I stay here, and it doesn't find me in the bedroom, on the broken glass shard, the bedroom door slowly opened. On the shattered glass shards on the basement floor, the view in the bedroom suddenly spun around. It didn't turn slowly anymore, but snapped fiercely, aiming straight at the room door. It knew. It had heard the hammer blow. It knew I wasn't on the bed. Thud, thud, thud. The footsteps on the ceiling changed completely. From slow, sneaking, shifting to heavy, thumping, running rhythms, shaking the dust layers on the beams. It was rushing out of the bedroom. It was returning to the stairs. Survival instinct screamed in my brain. I couldn't die trapped in this dead-end basement. This was a mouse trap, and I was the mouse waiting to be caught. I hastily grabbed the largest glass shard, hand-sized, sharp edges still stuck with some burnt plastic from the TV frame. Ignoring the glass edge cutting into my stinging palm, I dashed up the wooden stairs. Its footsteps were pounding in the upstairs hallway, rushing down the main staircase. I burst open the basement door, rushing out into the first floor hallway. The main door was only about 5 meters away. But at that very moment, a bone-chilling gust of wind, carrying the fishy smell of rusting metal, slapped straight into my face from the stairs leading upstairs. Too late. I couldn't open the 3 main door locks in time before it caught me. I spun around, diving into the bathroom right next to it, the only room with a thick door and an internal lock on the first floor. Wham! I slammed the door shut, hand shaking as I slid the latch. My back pressed tight against the door, sliding down to the cold tile floor. My breath rasped in gasps, heart beating so hard I felt my chest was about to explode. Outside the door, silence. The thudding footsteps vanished the moment I closed the door. No banging, no screaming. Only the sound of water dripping steadily from a leaky shower head. I slowly raised the broken glass shard in front of my face. Blood from my palm flowed down my wrist, dripping to the floor, but I dared not let go. The shard glowed ghostly in the dim darkness of the bathroom. It displayed the hallway outside, right in front of the bathroom door I was hiding in. The camera angle was low, about adult waist height. It was standing still, absolutely silent. Is it gone? I wondered, a fragile hope flaring up. But then, the image on the shard began to vibrate slightly. The camera was moving closer to the oak bathroom door. It got so close that I could see the detailed wood grain on the screen. And then, the door handle on the screen began to move. Right behind my back, the real brass door handle also began to turn. Click, click. It turned slowly, teasingly. I held my breath, clamped my mouth shut to keep from crying out. I felt the movement of the lock mechanism right behind the thin shirt on my back. It knew I was here. It was standing right on the other side of the door. Even though the naked eye couldn't see, it was there, touching the door, trying to get in. On the shard, I saw a hand appear at the edge of the screen. Not a black hand as I imagined. It was a pale, skin and bone hand, with unusually long fingers and pitch-black, cracked fingernails. That hand on the screen was raising up. One a doe. To knock on the door. Knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks rang out, right behind my neck, gentle but crystal clear. Open the door, a voice rang out. Not from outside the door, but coming from the very broken glass shard in my hand. That voice didn't sound human. It sounded like it was patched together from hundreds of broken recordings, crackling, disjointed, and carrying a cold metallic resonance. It vibrated violently on the surface of the broken glass shard, cutting into my hand, resonating directly into the marrow. I held my breath, back pressed tight against the door, using my entire body weight to block it. No. Go away. Please. I whispered, tears welling up from extreme fear. But my weight meant nothing at all. Click. The latch behind my back popped open automatically. Not from outside force, but the latch inside the bathroom turned itself. An invisible force twisted it gently, like twisting a water bottle cap. I screamed, jumped away from the door, scrambling back towards the bathtub in the corner. My feet slipped on the wet tile floor, causing me to crash into the cold porcelain bathtub. The bathroom door slowly opened. I stared, wide-eyed, at the gaping doorframe. The hallway outside was pitch dark, silent. There was no figure at all, no monster, no masked killer, only indefinite void. But when I tremblingly raised the broken glass shard, on that tiny, blood-soaked reflective surface, a tall figure filled the frame. It was stepping over the threshold. The angle on the broken glass shook violently with the rhythm of its footsteps. The camera lowered, as if its owner was crouching to fit through the doorframe. I saw the bathroom's ceramic tiled floor gliding past on the screen. It was inside. In reality, I was huddled in the empty bathroom corner, facing the air. But on the glass shard, it was standing tall in the middle of the room, blocking the exit. A strong, putrid smell suddenly hit me, rushing straight into my nose. The smell of rotting flesh and sewage water, mixed with the acrid scent of burning electronics. The narrow bathroom suddenly became terribly suffocating. I pressed close to the tiled wall corner, raising the glass shard like a useless shield. On the glass shard, the view started moving towards me. Slowly, leisurely, like a predator toying with prey that has reached a dead end. I saw the image of my own bare feet on the screen, getting closer and closer. It was coming closer. "Don't come here! Don't come here!" I screamed, swinging my arm wildly into the empty space in front. My hand only sliced through the freezing air. There was nothing there for me to fight back. But on the glass shard, I saw the camera angle jerk sharply when I swung, as if it had just dodged my attack. Then, it moved in close, right up to my face. On the tiny screen, my panicked, tear-stained face occupied the entire frame. I was seeing myself through its eyes, and it was bending down, face to face with me. The distance between me and that invisible thing right now was probably less than 10 centimeters. I felt a cold breath blowing on my face. Not wind, but breath. Wave after wave blowing onto my flesh, cold as liquid nitrogen. Suddenly, the image on the shard distorted violently. Vertical and horizontal stripes slashed through my face on the screen. And then, the image changed. No longer the first-person perspective. It switched to selfie mode. I wish I had thrown that shard of glass away. I wish I had closed my eyes and accepted my fate. But I didn't do that. I looked. On the sharp, broken glass shard, only the size of a palm, the image appeared vividly. The camera angle now looked like someone holding a phone high up to take a selfie with me. It covered the whole bathroom corner, the top of my head, and the thing standing right behind my back. It was tall. Even when stooping, it was still a whole head taller than me. That was not a human, nor exactly a ghost in the way people usually describe. Its face. Oh God. Its face had no flesh. It was composed of thousands, tens of thousands of gray-white static particles moving madly, but condensed into a solid physical block. Where the eyes should be, there were only two deep pitch-black hollows, leaking black liquid streaks like tar. And the mouth. It had no lips, just a gaping tear extending to the ears, revealing sharp teeth, blurry as if drawn by a faulty analog signal. On the screen, that mouth was grinning. Found you. The voice rang out again from the shard, static and distorted, but this time it was mixed with a wet giggling sound. In reality, the bathroom was still empty, but at that very moment, I felt it. A cold, slimy hand placed on my bare shoulder. The cold pierced through the t-shirt, soaking into the flesh, numbing me. I froze stiff, unable to move even a single finger. It was the paralysis of prey standing before an apex predator. I glanced down at the glass shard in my hand trembling violently, causing the image to shake. On it, the monster's bony black hand was gripping my shoulder tight. Its long fingers slowly crawled up my neck. Rustle, rustle. I heard the sound of my flesh rubbing against something rough, like sandpaper, right by my ear. And then, it bent lower. On the screen, that static-made face leaned right against my cheek. I saw snow particles from its face falling onto my shirt shoulder in the reflection. The stench flared up so strong that I started retching. The smell of rotting flesh mixed with burning ozone filled my lungs. Beautiful. Very. The voice hissed from the shard, and I felt a blast of freezing breath straight into my left ear. A tongue, or something wet and long, licked lightly up my cheek. That sensation was too real, too disgusting. It broke my paralysis. "Get out!" I screamed, a scream tearing my throat. In extreme panic, I could no longer think of anything. I swung my right hand, the hand holding the sharp broken glass, stabbing backwards into the empty space where it was standing. Thwack! I felt the shard plunge into something, not air. It stabbed into something soft, spongy, like stabbing a rotten sandbag. An ear-piercing screech rang out. Not the scream of a living creature, but the howl of a microphone in a feedback loop at maximum intensity. That sound shattered the light bulb in the bathroom. Darkness crashed down. The light bulb exploding plunged the bathroom into darkness as thick as India ink. The ear-piercing screech died out, leaving a lingering you in my ears like a broken siren. The thing I just stabbed, it vanished. The feeling of resistance in my hand disappeared, causing me to lose momentum and tumble forward, forehead smashing hard into the wooden door frame. I didn't dare stop to check if my head was bleeding or not. Survival instinct rose stronger than ever. I threw the broken glass away, crawled on all fours on the wet tile floor, trying to navigate the exit in the pitch darkness. The house seemed to be shrinking. The air was thick as jelly, clinging tight to my limbs. Although I could see nothing, I clearly felt its presence everywhere. In the wind whistling through window cracks, in the floorboards creaking under invisible weight, in the acrid smell of burning electronics still lingering around the nose. Run! Run now! I burst out of the bathroom, crashed into the hallway wall, stumbled but kept running headlong towards the main door. The distance from the bathroom to the main door was only about 5 meters, but tonight it was endless. I felt like the walls were elongating, and behind my back, darkness was surging, reaching out long fingers to grab my ankles. I crashed into the oak main door, my hands trembling, slippery with sweat and blood, frantically turning the 3 locks. Click. Click. Only the top chain latch left. My clumsy fingers couldn't slide it out. Thump. 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 Footsteps. That footstep sound again. It was coming from the kitchen. Heavy. Slow. It wasn't chasing me. It knew I was trapped. Please. 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 I sobbed, yanking the chain hard. The latch popped out. I shoved the door, shot out like a bullet. The freezing night air hit my face. But to me then, it was the sweetest life breath in the world. I didn't stop on the porch. I ran barefoot on the sharp gravel road, rushing out to the middle of the deserted highway. I ran until I reached a streetlight hundreds of meters away before daring to stop. I bent over, vomiting violently, hands bracing on scratched knees. Blood from my right palm still dripped onto the pitch-black asphalt. It was 3:15 a.m. I tremblingly took the phone out of my pocket, lucky that I had stuffed it in my pocket while hiding in the bathroom. The screen was cracked but still lit. I called 911 with blood-stained fingers. 20 minutes later, the police arrived. Blue and red lights spun, dispelling the eerie silence of the suburbs. I sat in the back of the ambulance, wrapped in a thermal blanket, watching police enter that house with flashlights and guns drawn. They searched the whole house. A large officer stepped out, face full of suspicion and annoyance. He approached me, took off his cap to scratch his head. "Hey, son," he said, voice booming. "You say there was an intruder? And an old TV in the basement?" "That's right," I stammered, teeth chattering. He was in the TV. He chased me." The officer sighed, looked at his notebook. We checked thoroughly. No sign of forced entry, no one in the house, and most importantly, he paused, looked straight into my eyes with pity, reserved for a junkie high on drugs. "There's nothing in the basement. The floor is bare, just some old newspaper boxes. No Sony TV at all, and no broken glass shards either." I was stunned. Impossible. I smashed it. The shard. I held the shard. I held up my bandaged right hand. The deep cut in the palm was real. The blood was real. "Maybe you broke the bathroom mirror," the officer shrugged. "Bathroom mirror broken. Light bulb also broken. Seems you had a bad night. We didn't find drugs, but I advise you to get a mental health check." They left, after making a perfunctory report on a disturbance caused by hallucinations. I stood there, looking at house number 42 sunk in darkness. The second floor window, my old bedroom, pitch black like a hollow eye staring back at me. It had cleaned up. It had erased all traces. That very night, I took a taxi straight to a cheap motel in the city. leaving behind all belongings, computer, clothes. I never returned there again. 1 week has passed since that terrifying night. I am sitting writing these lines in a cheap hotel room 30 miles from the old house. I changed my phone number, deleted all social media accounts. I taped black tape over the cameras of my laptop and phone. I even asked the hotel staff to remove the large mirrors in the room. I thought I had escaped. I thought it was a haunted location phenomenon, attached to house number 42. And that ancient TV, I was wrong. It didn't haunt the house. It haunts me. Or perhaps, once it has seen you, it will never take its eyes off you again. 15 minutes ago, while I was typing the last lines of this story to post on Reddit to warn everyone, the 55-inch Samsung Smart TV hanging on the wall opposite the bed suddenly lit up. No static, no interference. It was a 4K screen sharp to every pore. It wasn't showing HBO or CNN. It showed an image of a gaunt man, haggard, with dark circles under his eyes, sitting curled up on the bed with a laptop. It's me, right now. My heart felt like it stopped. I slowly raised my head to look at the screen. The angle. It was broadcasting from inside the built-in wardrobe right behind me. The closet door was ajar, a small crack of only about 5 centimeters, enough for an eye to look through. On the high-resolution screen, I clearly saw the dark crack of the wardrobe behind me. And in the deep darkness of that closet, on the TV screen, I saw 2 white spots glittering. 2 eyes. It was in the closet, right behind me. I dared not turn around. I dared not move. I knew if I turned around, I would see nothing. But if I looked at the TV screen, I would see it step out. And the worst thing? On the corner of the TV screen appeared a bright red recording icon, blinking regularly. It wasn't just watching anymore. It was saving. It was making a collection. And I think the episode about me is coming to an end. If you are reading this post, and suddenly the TV in your room turns on by itself, or your computer screen lights up even though it's off, don't look at the screen. Don't try to find where the camera angle is. Don't do anything. Close your eyes. Because if you see it on the screen, it means it has already seen you. The closet door behind me just creaked. I have to go.